back to the Dr. Melissa Show. So today we're going to be talking about the topic of addiction. So there's a lot of ways that addiction can affect us in our average life now. There's a lot of things that can interfere with our decision making, where we're kind of mindlessly just doing things just because. So some of those things include technology that we're exposed to, different kinds of food, and other things. So this podcast, we're going to focus more on technology specifically, and then other podcasts will move into maybe food and other types of addiction that we're susceptible to. So just to kind of go over what addiction is, I want to first describe why addiction is something that as humans we may experience. So in our human brain, we are designed to do things to help our species survive. And there are certain activities and things that we can do to help our survival. And part of that is the reward system in our brain. And that is located in the nucleus accumbens and the basal ganglia. This is known as the pleasure center. And what is important about this place in your mind is that it controls motivation and reward. And the way that it does this is that it releases neurotransmitters such as dopamine, which is one of the biggest players as an excitatory neurotransmitter in the brain, when you do something that contributes to your species survival. And these activities would include eating, drinking, having sex, feeling secure, doing things to ensure your safety, even like exercise, because your body knows that when you're able to outrun like a predator, that's going to ensure your survival. So those are rewarded behavior that naturally you should be, that should be encouraged. There's also inhibitory neurotransmitters such as GABA and serotonin, which helps to stabilize things and help you decide what to do in situations where you're predicting an action and you want to inhibit yourself from wanting certain things that's negative for you. So serotonin, for example, is a mood stabilizer. It helps you regulate your mood, appetite, sexual desire, and sleep. So they did a lot of studies where suicide victims they found very low levels of serotonin in their minds. And there's a lot of drugs that alter the way that these neurotransmitters affect your brain. So, for example, there are a lot of drugs that alter serotonin, which is helpful in treating depression and anxiety. So this inherent reward system in your mind is very useful for your own survival, for you to be healthy, and for you to do things that's going to contribute to the species surviving in general. But it's also easily hijacked by other things like drugs, food, and behavior that can cause pleasure to be released, but not necessarily in your best interest. So the intended purpose of this reward center is not always what it's used for. And so addiction, when you do experience addiction, when you stop a behavior or whatever that you're intaking, for example, food or drugs, you'll feel very anxious, and that becomes more a drive for you that you want to get back to doing that or eating that or taking that than what you normally should be doing, such as normal food, and normal sexual desires, things like that. If you're choosing something else beyond what you normally should be choosing, then that means that some part of your brain is being manipulated by these products out there that can be controlling you. So there are a lot of studies now and a lot of conversation about how this is affecting us on a daily basis. One of the ways that, for example, smartphones is becoming a hot topic about how is this mimicking, our use of smartphones is mimicking addictive behavior. And there are a lot of people that are comparing this behavior to alcoholic addiction or nicotine addiction, to the point where there's actually now a term called nomophobia, which is short for no mobile phone phobia. That just means there's actually standard tests out there to test whether or not you are addicted to technology such as smartphones. So Dr. Cal Newport on TED Talks kind of described this process as, these technologies now available are exploiting our reward system to control us, because so companies will hire attention engineers to use addiction principles, for example, that's used in slot machines, in casinos and things like that, to leverage our attention. They will create ads for products in exchange for our time and attention, which then can be packaged and sold to companies. So when you're scrolling through your social media and something pops up to grab your attention, and now you're clicking on that, you're giving it a couple minutes of your time, that behavior is now being manipulated by companies to sell certain things. And so that's something that that's creating a system of unsatisfied kind of reward. So for example, because you're doing these activities and it's giving you some kind of pleasure, eventually you'll be kind of desensitized to it, and you just automatically do it. And so you're not actually making a decision to do it, but you're almost on autopilot and doing it just because you've been almost trained to do it. So there's a lot of problems associated with this, because if you're constantly distracted by these smartphones and different things on your phones, they actually have found that the average person checks their phone over 100 times a day because they want to see what is going on. They just have this, it's like a tick that they just have to get rid of. They have to check their phone. They have to just glance at it, look at it, touch it, something. And this is creating a problem for our attention, because it's creating fragmented attention, reducing our concentration capacity, and creating some kind of psychological backlash. So our practice were we try some social experiment on ourselves for the past 24 hours. So we decided to shut down our cell phones and just decide not to use it at all. And I kind of want to talk about, how that affected you, or what do you think made you feel differently about that 24 hours versus what you've been doing in the past?
So for myself, I think I was fine at first. I mean, I think it was okay. It wasn't too bad. Probably helped that part of that time when we were at work, so really not a need for me to even look at my phone anyway. But for the fact that I actually since I have an iPhone and I wear a watch, my watch wasn't completely turned off, so it would still kind of send notifications. I didn't look at them, but it would constantly send something, and it would just vibrate, and it was like back of my mind kept saying, look at it, you have to look at it. And it was very hard, very tempting not to look at it. So I found it a huge struggle. I know, and I admit I did not do the full 24 hours. I completely failed. I probably put, I don't know, I got up 5, 6, maybe I put in 6 hours, maybe.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I tried.
It was really, really hard because, for me, I noticed, how much I check my phone because I'm not supposed to check it. So, I would have, these urges to, check it. And then I'd be like, oh, wait, no, I can't do that. But like you said, it was easy at work. But then once I got home, I was just I just felt like my phone was staring at me. I needed to pick it up or something.
But did you?
No.
You actually completed it.
Yeah, I did.
You did full 24 hours. Wow, bless your heart. I can't do that.
See, I actually had the, what do you want to call it? I turned off my phone so I wouldn't be tempted to look at it. And so everything was perfectly fine until I got to my house and I turned my laptop on, which has the messages synced to it.
Oh.
And so I technically didn't look at my phone, but, yeah, I've got no excuse there. I just got on my laptop and started talking to people, so.
So you did technically look at your phone?
Yeah.
You got, text messaging and stuff
your
like that?
Your phone messages.
Yeah, I got my phone messages. I just did not use my phone to do so.
Yeah, it did kind of give me a little wake-up call going how much I look at my phone. I was pretty shocked. I mean, I know I'm going to say it's, I have, reasons why I had to look at my phone. Not, I guess it just depends. What was the reason? Mine is, I have kids, they drive, they, leave the house. I'm just making sure they're all safe and everybody's okay. Nobody's calling for help.
Yeah.
And things like that. So I do it more just for safety protocol.
I have no excuse. I just got tired of talking to my cats.
So the studies they've actually shown, they did a survey, and women, 57% women said that they would be willing to give up sex for a week, but not their cell phone. So they're actually choosing an activity that's not related to their survival as a species at all. They're foregoing that process and going for the phone.
I would be one of those women.
It's not helping your reproductive.
True. It's what's just 1 week.
Yeah, but basically what they're saying is they're valuing phone more than something that they should. Their brain is wired to value.
Right.
So right now, the data shows anybody from age 18 to 49, over 90% have a smartphone. The average in the Americans is about 77%, and that's mostly because of people over age 65. So they not a lot of them have cell phones. Only 29% of baby boomers have cell phones. 50% of Gen Xers, age 34 to 45, have them. And then pretty much very high concentration of 18 to 33-year-olds have them. So the issue with this is, being so addicted to the phone, there might be a concern with, decisions you're making that can contribute to, putting yourself in danger. For example, driving and texting. So that's something that is becoming more of an issue. Usually about a couple thousand people die each year from distracted driving, and that's just from the U.S. Center of Disease Control. And 75% of cellular owning adults have admitted that they do use their cell phone while driving. And most of that is the younger generation. So a lot of adults now, because they're using their cell phone and driving, this is a conflict of their interest, because if they're actually getting into accidents and dying as a result, it's definitely, this is when the addiction of the cell phone is becoming a more serious problem. Do you guys have any feelings towards how you feel about sort of being manipulated by these cell phone companies, like app developers that develop things specific to grab your attention and to manipulate you into desiring something that you naturally were not programmed to desire?
You mean just in general?
Are you upset by the fact that this is happening, that you know that you are part of this group of people who are being manipulated?
Yeah, because I can remember, obviously, growing up. I'm going to be like 40 years old, so no. I grew up without, and there wasn't cell phones and anything like that, so we never, you never worried about it back then. But then now I've noticed how much I need it, and I've caught myself, having to tell myself, don't text while driving. It's all these little just pop-ups, the ads, all the little apps that you have to just have a water reminder, for goodness sakes.
True.
And even that pops up, and I still feel like, oh my gosh, I have to glance. What is it? It's so silly that I can't believe I have to stop and look.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous how much I have to do it, and it's sad. I can't recall you never feeling that way. You never had to worry about those things, and I am. It's kind of upsetting. I was hoping that this whole 24-hour thing would kind of help, but it is at least a wake-up call. Lets me know, I'm a little too involved.
Yeah, I feel like whenever your safety is starting to be jeopardized, then it is a problem. So being away from my phone for 24 hours and knowing that I was that shaken up by it, I wanted to check it so bad, it kind of is a wake-up call. Because that's true. I will admit, I have texted and drove before, and I've had moments where I've almost swerved and stuff like that. And every time I do that, that's obviously scary. But I don't know. I think it is a problem.
Really, it's not even worth it. It's just the tech, whatever even you looked at was not even that important. But
I also don't think it's that, because I don't know how many of you, I got a new car recently and it has the Bluetooth where it will like tell me that I've got a text message or it'll read my text message to me, but that still causes distracted driving because I have to lean over and be like, oh yeah, read that text message to me and reply and all these things. So it's like, it's almost like even everything is just kind of like making way for cell phones now. Like it's in our cars now and it's trying to make it easier for us to text and drive, but it's still
A distraction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're having, the 24 hours that you experience, do you feel like it's easier to stay focused and concentrate now that you can't touch something that you normally would be touching to kind of distract you? Do you feel like you're getting a little bit more control over your mind?
I felt like I was more focused for sure. Like the only thing that got me was for a little bit I'm okay. Like if I'm doing something and in that moment that I'm doing something, I do feel more like focused on what I'm doing. But then I would have in the back of my mind, oh, it's been a while since I've checked my phone. Like I need to check my phone. Like that kind of feeling,
Yeah.
So it was still kind of an issue. Like in the moment, whatever I'm doing, yes, I'm focused. But then after some time goes by, it's like, well, I haven't checked my phone lately, so like I want to check it,
That's kind of like an itch, right? It's
Yes.
like
Yeah.
that's the addiction.
I actually was going to say, I actually thought I was going to do so much better because my parents live in a place where there is no cell service, there's no Wi-Fi, there's nothing. So every time I go home, I understand that I'm not going to be able to have that contact. So I don't check my phone. Like I'll go leave the house and I just leave my phone there. But I think like whenever I'm up here and everything, and I know I have the access to Wi-Fi, I know I have cell signal, it's a little bit harder for me to just be like, oh yeah, I can't use my phone. Because I know up here I can't, and like it's constantly going off, even if it's turned off, my laptop's giving me notifications and everything. It's harder to get away from.
Yeah. I don't know.
Technology.
So on this questionnaire, the nomophobia questionnaire, which goes over basically how addicted you are. It calculates that by making you rank certain statements. And if you score under 60, you're kind of mildly addicted. 61 to 90 means you cannot function without checking your phone. Over 100 means you're going to struggle with severe anxiety if you don't have access to your phone.
Yeah. I ended up in that rank. Geez.
So looking over this, are there anything that jump out at you as what stood out to you that you cannot handle? For example, like which one
Like
was more important?
one of mine for sure was like number 8 said if I could not use my smartphone, I would be afraid of getting stranded somewhere. Yeah.
That's a big thing for me too, especially because I'm not really good with like directions. I've always used like my smartphone. Like if I'm going somewhere that I don't know, like generally in my area I'm good, but like if I'm going somewhere, I have to have like GPS turn by turn telling me where to go.
Okay,
So
but what about like flat tire? You're stranded. You're somewhere. You need help. And you don't have any other way of contacting, and it's not safe to walk by yourself. Somewhere. I mean, a phone is obviously it's going to help you.
Yeah.
But you think that I don't have it. I mean, I know obviously we did it back in the day. Like it was doable. You flag someone down. I guess I don't know how you did it then, but nowadays that was one of my big things. I mean, if I don't know what I don't know.
just thinking about that kind of makes me nervous.
Does
That's
running out of
scary.
batteries scare you?
No, because I can just charge it.
Okay, but what if you can't? Like you're
Like
already
you're running out of batteries.
You're running out.
period.
You're like at 2%. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not even.
You don't
And you
have a
have access to a
charger, you don't
charger.
have anything.
Yeah.
You're stranded and you got 2%.
Or just anywhere. You just like I can't
Yeah.
charge my phone.
That
It's
would
gonna
still
die.
probably freak me out too. Oh, that's
Yeah.
bad.
Some of those were my really high rankings on that one.
They did a study at a university to see what people are willing to go without, and they are willing to go without a wallet going out, but they're not willing to go without their phone.
Yeah.
Because they feel like,
can
there's enough places where you can pay with your phone
Yeah.
that you can probably survive.
Which I've probably
with your
done
phone.
that. My husband's
Yeah.
done that. He's forgotten his wallet at home and was like, oh man, I left it. But he's like, that's cool. I have my phone. I can just pay with that.
Yes, and now they have those cases with the little thing you can put on the back to put your cards in.
Mm-hmm.
So-
Yeah, something like that I have. So I don't even really need a
So,
wallet.
yeah, I was gonna say, as long as you have your phone, you've got your wallet. You're good.
Pretty much.
What about if you didn't have your cell phone with you? Are you stressed out that you do not have access to social media and your online networks, all your apps, Twitter, Snapchat, all these accounts that you don't have access to?
Yeah, me no. I don't really do a lot of social media, so I think that was on the lower end for me.
Yeah, that was on the lower end for me too. It's more connecting with like family,
Family
like
and
text,
friends,
like
yeah.
you know, whether it's your like for my case, it's my kids. Make sure they're doing okay, because if suddenly they need an emergency, they need something, they're calling me or texting me, and I can't pick up. I don't know how else can they reach me. That's their lifeline too. That's important to them too. So that's more important. Facebook, all that stuff. I don't really get on that too much anyway.
Yeah.
I'm like, you could be gone for days, nobody will really notice anyway.
Yeah.
So, anybody else have any other questions that you might?
I actually, the one that like I felt like I didn't even think about until I saw it was the I would feel uncomfortable without constant access to information through my smartphone.
We do check everything,
I
don't
was
you?
going to say, I do. I'm always like, that doesn't sound right. Let me check that on Google real quick.
I Google everything also.
Yeah, you're like, what's that actor in that one movie? It's so stupid, but go on.
Hold on, let me get to IMDb real quick.
Yeah, you Google it. It's something so silly that you just are. It's right there. I
So
can
you
just-
like the sense of control that you have over information.
Yeah,
that
because
you
it's
can,
readily available. Back in the day, you had to wait for someone to know the answer.
to the
Hold on.
The library. But if it was like a general thing, you'd be like, my mom's real good in history. I'm gonna go ask her that question.
And then you still may not get
You may not get it. It may not even be right.
Hold
But
on,
yeah.
let me get the encyclopedia. That's an F encyclopedia, right?
Oh
Okay,
my
hold on.
gosh! Yeah.
So you like the instant gratification of information.
Yes, it's maybe it depends on generations. I don't know. If we did in my generation, we did without for so long that now that it's right in front of me, I'm like, I can access it so quickly. I love it.
I can even remember in high school so many times, like someone asked me a random trivia question and like I had it in my head the entire day. And then like I wake myself up at night just being like, I finally remember the answer to this.
Yeah, that's something. I don't know.
It's so much easier to just be like, oh, just let me Google it real quick. Hold on.
Get it out of your head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't.
So I think part of that satisfaction is coming from the fact that your mind, kind of what I was talking about before, that reward center, it does reward risk assessment. So if you make a decision and you're not sure if what your decision is right or not, so for example, if you're checking up an answer and you're not sure who it was and you checked it up and it was right, it gives you that reward of pleasure, because what primitive years you would have to assess, am I going to run this way or am I going to run the other way? And if you run one way, you're going to be eaten, and the other way you live. And so like your body's like, that was a good decision, you know.
Good job.
You assess your risk correctly. But now that these like little questions you have, you want that reward of knowing you were right, kind of thing. And so that's contributing to part of that, I think, addiction of just knowing like I can get access to this immediately, kind of thing. So in my 24 hours that I did this, I think, you know, the biggest thing I noticed was that I paid more attention to my kids, I think. A lot of times I might be checking my email to see if there's any work stuff coming in, any patients trying to contact us, any emergency stuff. And I realized when I couldn't have access to my phone, I looked at my kids more and I interact with them more. And my husband said that I was more accessible. And he's like, when I normally talk to you, sometimes you're not
blank.
there. Yeah. Or, you know, and then there's a common thing where parents that are very involved with this, not just kids that are kind of distracted, but parents, a lot of times when they're on their smart devices and their kids interrupt them to try to get their attention, it's usually met with some kind of a negative response. The parent will feel annoyed that the kid is is interrupting whatever they're doing. And so that's kind of when you have the wrong priorities, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of was a wake-up call for me, that I need to make sure that the phone is off when I'm interacting with family, because the whole point of being connected to family is that, you know, you're trying to connect with family that's farther away, but the ones right next to you deserve your attention a little bit more.
Yeah, I've been kind of caught on that one too. My husband had to bring that to my attention, because there's times that I mean, I have kids. I know that I know how to tune them out naturally. But when it comes to my phone, I really tune them out. Like, I know I can maybe faintly hear something, and my husband will have to get after me and be like, she asked you, 3 times, and you didn't respond. I'm going, who? What's going on? And I feel really, at that instant, I feel slightly annoyed, but then I feel really guilty. I feel really bad. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's pretty bad. So I caught myself doing that. So I know I need to really just kind of let it go. Just kind of turn that off, not pay so much attention. Like you said, focus more on family if they're right near you.
Yeah. But, our generation, there's all these things that they're saying that's negative about cell phones. And we understand it. Yeah, it is a problem. It is addiction that we need to start to take control over. We can't let it control us. But there's also some benefits to cell phones that, our generation and beyond just can't go back to before that. There are some benefits in terms of life-saving capacity of these cell phone devices, mainly because the GPS on there can help to identify and locate people. For example, there was a case in 2016 where a child was found because he sent out distress text without really able to describe where he was. He was illegally being trafficked with other kids, and because of the GPS on his cell phone, the police were able to rescue them. Wow. And then that was just recently, but there's a lot of examples of people using Twitter or texting, different ways to reach out where their GPS on their phone helped people to help identify where they are and actually save their lives. So in the Journal of Emergency Medicine have found that usually average about 137 more lives are saved per 100,000 people arriving at emergency services. When they're trying to call emergency services, it's more likely that people might die if it's from a landline. There's an average of 588 deaths per response per landline than 451 with cell phone. And what they're saying is probably because cell phone gives you immediate way of contacting someone, which reduces response time. If you notice an accident, you have to run somewhere to get to a phone, that's wasting time, and that may be the time that someone needs to be rescued. They don't have a lot of time if it's an emergency. So relying on landlines for those things are not always useful. There's also other ways that cell phones are helping to save lives. For example, if there's any kind of massive terrorist attack or any kind of thing that's happening, anybody with cell phones can quickly start recording and send that information out to the world. And that way it connects everyone and they'll be on guard and start to prepare for that instance. Whereas it gives the terrorists a lot less time to create, a bubble of isolation. So it helps everyone else to kind of get involved and help the situation. There's a lot of natural disasters where this is applicable, where the only way the landlines are down, but their cell phones, they can use their internet to try to get help to them. So I kind of want to talk about, how you think that cell phones actually benefit your life right now. So for example, for me, I like the fact that I have access to my phone. So when there's a moment like my child's first ability to, when she was able to walk by herself, I could capture that. And that's something that I can keep instead of, not having that moment. And I do want to capture those moments, with having the accessibility of a cell phone.
Yeah, which is true, because I probably missed out on my first 3 kids of capturing instant. It's more like you'll remember their first steps, but you don't really record them immediately. You have to go find the camcorder, go see is this blank tape. It's like, you couldn't recreate that moment. Like, it just wasn't going to happen. It was like you said, you can record it instantly. I did the same thing with my daughter. I did that with my last daughter. Sporting events, and anything you just might catch at that moment. You suddenly come across an old friend you haven't seen. I mean, you can take a quick picture. You can there's a lot of little things you can do right away. It's nice that way.
I think it's also like accessibility too. Like even like if you say you did have you did capture it on the camcorder at the exact time and everything, you can't just like be all like, oh yeah, here's the VHS of my daughter's first steps and everything. You can watch it whenever you
have
want
time.
to. As opposed to like your cell phone, you can be like, here, just watch this quick video. It's
Yeah, or blast it, put it on Facebook. Everybody, your whole family that's not in the same state, and everybody can enjoy that same moment.
See it, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it is accessible. I like those little quick things.
I also like the information at your fingertips thing too, because I mean it helps. Like there's books that you could read online from your phone, and like you can just like it can be used as like a good learning tool as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. It can be a motivator. Like if you're working out and there's all these like things to help you eat right, exercise, like reminders or apps, all that little thing.
Keeps you on track.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is accessible. There's good things, and just like you said, GPS alone, just knowing where to go.
I think the information is pretty important because it's hard to oppress people who have access to information. Like instead of like North Korea, where they are completely limited and cut off from the rest of the world, they don't have access to information. It's easier to control those people because they're more brainwashed than if you're able to verify, like kind of what Megan said earlier, like that doesn't sound right, I'm going to look that up. Because it's something where you have an independent mind and you have access to unlimited information, so you're not easily manipulated. So you can use that as a way to kind of help to make better decisions and things like that. Like even if you're at the store and they're like, oh, 100% off, 50% off, whatever, you can still check online to make sure this is a legitimate, deal, instead of just, believing whatever's in front of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Thank you, Amazon. It's the first thing I do. I'm like, access to other comparison pricing.
Yeah.
Like usually when I buy something more than like $100, I always check to make sure it's not cheaper online than like Walmart saying whatever,
Yeah, it saves you time from hopping around store to store, having to go and compare and shop and be like, no, let's go check another store. So check,
I also like how cell phones are able to, they're saying it's isolating, us from each other, which I don't necessarily agree with. It's really about your self-control when you're in a room with people you actually care about. But I think it actually helps to connect you to people that you normally would never have met. For example, for dating, there's all these apps that just because you're on the app, now you have a connection with someone that you can maybe get to know. I also like that you can do background check on them on Facebook before you even invest your time, because what if, their behavior on there, because it's years of their history of their behavior that's public, and you can assess whether or not that's something you want, without even spending that much time to figure it out. Because back in the day, someone could be like a serial killer for years, and you have no idea because
you're like,
you have
nice.
you have no information. Like, oh, all your previous wives are dead. Okay, but on Facebook, there's probably some kind of record of that, and you can look that up. But I was thinking that for example, when I was getting to know my husband at the beginning, one of the things I look for is someone who's very kind to his family, including his mom and sisters. I want to see his relationship with his family. But it's awkward on a date and say, how's your relationship with your mom and your sisters? And then, but on Facebook, I can see, them doing stuff together and activities they were doing. And I see that he has a very healthy, fun, relationship with his family. That gave me more confidence that, this is the kind of guy I'm looking for, because this is a criteria that I'm looking for. And sometimes asking someone, you don't get the straight answer, because they were like, "What do you want me to have a good?" Yeah, I have a good relationship with my family. You have no idea. They're just telling you what you want to hear, kind of thing.
Okay.
And then the other thing is, this we talked about the safety and being able to track. For example, like if you give your child a cell phone, and when they're, traveling or with friends and stuff, you can still see where they are. And I think that gives parents a kind of a
sense of relief.
Yeah, exactly.
It does. That's one thing. I mean, I know my daughter, most people don't want to give their young kids phones, and my daughter's going to be 8 this year, but she's had hers for a year. But since she takes the school bus and she's at school, even if she doesn't use it and just has it turned on, I can at least track her. It's kind of like on her backpack, so she can, I just feel safe knowing I know where she's at, I know she's here or there. It's just, unfortunately nowadays we have to track our children. We just don't know what they're up to.
Yeah.
But it's nice. Just they can know where I'm at and I know where they're at, and it's just safer.
So, are there anything else that you want to kind of share about the benefits of technology and cell phones that you find in your life that enhances your life in a positive way?
Just kind of like you said, as far as communicating, definitely, even just texting, cute pictures.
Connecting with family.
Yeah.
I like music also, like whenever I'm working out and stuff, like I like to listen to music, and then it also tracks like what I'm doing, like as far as like burning calories and stuff like that. So I like it for that purpose also.
So it saves you time from you having to write down like your own. It kind of keeps you on track for accountability for your working out regimen.
I won't lie. I like playing games while having to wait in a waiting room.
True.
Yeah. You're slightly introverted. You don't want to talk to them.
I don't want to talk to people. I mean, I'll talk to them on my cell phone. I don't know, but
I'll talk to you on my cell phone while you're sitting in front of me.
While you're sitting in front of me.
I've done that with my husband. I was sitting right next to him, and I'll text him. Okay. But sometimes I like to text because then you don't have to say it out loud, because what if there's people in the room that you don't want, you know.
I don't even want to know what that conversation is about now. Just forget it.
You kind of come up with a strategy to get the kids to bed, but without telling the kids that that's what you're planning on doing. So, so kind of reiterate, you know, the danger of cell phone use and being addicted and not thinking about what you're doing and just kind of mindlessly letting your autopilot take over and playing with your phone even when you're driving, that's pretty dangerous. So there's up to this point in time, distracted driving related crashes have injured 421,000 people so far. So that's a pretty big number. So just keep that in mind when you're, you know, on your cell phone in your car. Just don't do that. It's probably not safe. And then also the other thing that we talked about is just when you're with your family and people you care about, consider putting it away because the other things can wait. The people that are in front of you, you don't want to miss out on actual life, you know, experiences with them, kind of thing. And then, but the benefits of cell phones, you know, of course, to our generation, even our dental practice, most patients require us to communicate with them through texting instead of calling, because they just don't have time to answer calls anymore.
Right.
And it's a lot easier to get a hold of them and get information across with texting too. So, so that's pretty much, you know, our 2 cents about social media and cell phone use. And then next episode, we're going to talk about addiction with food.
You're listening to RNCN, the digital destination for premium talk radio.